Hey everybody, my name's Kelham Brown. I'm the mortgage official, and this is the Show. By day, I'm a Dallas mortgage loan officer, but by night, I am a varsity official. And here with me today is Coach Dave Brown with over 20,000 hours of coaching experience of loan officers in the industry, along with billions of dollars closed and a plethora of knowledge. Dave, how are you doing this afternoon?
I am really good, Kelham. Thanks so much. I am really excited about a good show today that we're going to bring some great information to everybody. What do we got on the show today, Kel?
Let's say today our topic is buying versus renting. And I know, Dave, you get a little worked up about this one, whether people should stay in their rental apartment or their rental house, or they should really seek out how much they may be able to afford and buy a new home.
If you're renting right now, it may not be the worst thing financially that you're doing for this period of time. Does that make sense, Kel? For this period of time?
I'm shocked you said it that way, but I think going along with that, being in a rental is not a bad thing, whether you're trying to save money, pay off debt, just trying to find a more manageable payment than the amount of house you're looking to buy. So renting is not a bad thing in the short term to get everything lined up, but for future wealth building, I know you would say you have to get into a house.
So let's back that up a minute. Do you mind if I dive into it a little bit?
Let's say break it down.
All right, so let's talk about a couple of things. One of the things about renting that people, especially in our industry, everybody says, hey, you have to buy a house. And that's what we want you to do, because I do believe in it, not only from the point of view of home ownership is kind of that American dream, but it's also the largest asset that people have, and it does over time appreciate. But let's think this through. When you rent, okay, the first thing about renting is it's a fixed payment. You know exactly what your monthly payment is without exception. It's never going to change until your lease is up every year. Now, the downside of that, Kelham, is you're not able to do anything, right? You're not able to change the color. You can't bust out a wall. At least you shouldn't. I think the apartment complexes are going to get upset if you bust a wall out. But at least you know what the fixed expenses are. You don't have to worry about anything else. Now, on the opposite side of that, when we get into a mortgage, you're going to hear some terms like, here's the deal. When you get a mortgage, you have a PITI payment, okay? And a PITI payment means that your payment...
Hold on, Coach Dave. Break it down simpler. Do you have a whiteboard?
I got a whiteboard. Do you want me to pull it out?
Pull out the whiteboard, but no mortgage jargon, or we're going to have to put you in the penalty box.
Okay. All right. So first of all, here we go. I wrote this out here. So when you're renting, okay, it's a fixed payment. Can you see that? It's fixed.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you have a mortgage, it's PITI, and you get to build equity. Now, here's the thing about that. Let's talk this through. What people don't tell you when you have a mortgage, and so I wrote this out on the whiteboard. Okay. So PITI is the term you will see online when you start to research a mortgage, and that stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So PITI equals your total monthly payment when you have a mortgage. That's the all-in payment. All right. Does that make sense, Kelham? Did I break that down a little more?
I'm following with you. You're not going to see that term in other kinds of financing, like if you were getting a car or any other kind of financing.
Exactly. And so a lot of times when people think about a payment, they might run a mortgage calculator and say, hey, what $400,000 at 5.5% equals X, but there's these other things that you have to factor in. So you have your principal and interest, which is your payment, your property taxes, and your monthly homeowner's insurance. Okay, so those are the things included in your payment. The final thing, Kelham, that I wrote on the board here is HOA and maintenance. Okay, so what do we need to talk about that? In different areas, it doesn't matter if you're in Dallas or around the country, when you drive into a subdivision or an addition, a housing addition, you have to think about, like, is there a boulevard? Is there a gate at the front of the community, right? Is there a community swimming pool? Okay. Any of those things that maybe there's a park in the addition, any of those things most likely would indicate that there is an association that manages those areas. They're called common areas. And you can have association dues anywhere from $100 a month up to $500, $600, $700, maybe even $1,000 a month in really nice upscale neighborhoods. And so you have to be able to factor that in to your affordability and your monthly payment. Yeah.
The amenities that you pay for in the apartment complex or in your townhouse are the exact same that you're going to take on whether you're purchasing the home or renting the home.
Absolutely, 100%. And you just have to be aware of those. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. You just need to be aware, because this is what factors into your overall monthly payment. This is why I answered the question in the beginning that renting is not always bad while you're getting yourself in a position to be able to purchase a home, because on one side, on the other side, what it is, but there's also some additional expenses. So I think we broke that down pretty well for people.
100%. So when it comes to the financing portion, when you go on Zillow or online and you see an apartment or a house for rent, you'll see down in the description needs 2.5 or 3 times rent for your income. Is that about the same when it comes to mortgage financing, or what kind of hidden fees are there, like you just broke it down, when the financing goes from a renting to trying to buy a home?
All right. So the question is really, what is the amount of income that we use to qualify you for a mortgage? And this is where it really differs from everyday, living to how we look at this. What do I mean by that? When you get paid every week or every month, you have a net amount that goes into your bank account. That's what you budget off of to set your monthly budget, to pay your bills and to live on, to decide how much additional funds you have for savings, for tithing, for charity, and just for fun and going out and getting kind of crazy and enjoying life. But we, on the mortgage side, we use your gross income before taxes. Okay, so we use that gross number, the amount before taxes, to calculate our debt to income, or we call it DTI. And I'm not going to say any jargony words from the mortgage world that'll get a technical foul called on me. But the term you will hear is called debt to income. And it's just how much of your income can go towards qualifying for a mortgage. As a rule of thumb, it's a good rule of thumb. You can say about 1/3 of your income can go towards a house payment. Now, there's different calculations. And so when you're talking to a mortgage lender, we run some different numbers for you to see where you fall. And different loan programs will allow you to go to a higher level. Okay. But the biggest thing you need to understand is we use gross income, not the actual amount that goes into the bank account, which is a little different.
The next point I had written down that we were going to talk about today is the rate versus life trap, and how chasing the lowest rate possible could be the most dangerous thing for a client, because lowering the rate is one of the few ways without reducing your purchase price to lower your monthly payment. And so clients will look at that and say, if I can get a lower rate, I can get more house, or I'll have a lower payment. But why can that be so dangerous for them if they're just chasing to the bottom?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so I'm going to answer that simply by saying the lowest interest rate is not always the best overall scenario for you. What do I mean by that? It starts with the education process, letting people understand here's where the current market sits, right? And here's what the closing cost and the fee structure to get into that home would be. Are you comfortable with that? And then when we offer a game plan to people, showing them a couple of additional options of how we can lower that interest rate, so that they can see some different options with the cost, kind of the cost payment analysis. That's where it all starts. And so we always try to tell people, let's look at the big picture, not just that one single factor, because you might be, missing the overall objective that's better for your financial picture.
100%. Don't we call it the sleep tight at night test? It's got to have a little bit better name, but the peace of mind test is probably a better name for it.
Yeah, I call it the let's not eat ramen noodles test. And, well, I mean, here's the deal.
What he's trying to say, folks, is to not be house poor.
There you go.
To have no furniture on. The lights are on, but everybody's sleeping on the floor in sleeping bags.
It literally, you know what? Hey, when you drive down the street, I can assure you there are people that have over-purchased. They've bought way too much home, right? And they're not able to afford that home, maybe on paper, but their personal budget, because of living off of their net income, they really can't afford it, Kelham, because of all the other activities. As an example, when you were growing up, you played in AAU basketball and traveled the country. And we spent a lot of money doing those things. And the last I looked, I mean, you officiate youth basketball and high school basketball, right?
Right.
Parents are spending tons of money. I mean, those Nikes behind you, those are not inexpensive. And so
these are not cheap. And they're not getting cheaper.
Exactly. And so, just because on paper you can qualify for a monthly payment doesn't mean, because of all the other activities that you're wanting to do with your kids and your family, which are extremely important. Okay. You have to factor all these in. And this is where, when Kel calls it the sleep at night, this is the thing that keeps you up at night, or you're eating ramen noodles, or you don't have any furniture in the house because you can't afford it. That's not a real way to live. Okay, in my opinion. But, we present the information and the numbers, and we let people make the best decision for them. But again, it comes back to education. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Coach, we got to get going. It's our 2-minute drill. So last thing we're going to talk about, we're going to rapid fire real quick. In 20,000 hours and over billions of dollars in loans closed, what is one tip that homebuyers should avoid, or a mistake that they make during their process?
Oh, I would say, I think one of the biggest things is not understanding what a true monthly payment is before you go out and look at a house. Here's what I mean by that, Kel. I can remember one time having a client that called me, and they were just head over heels in love with a house. And I was like, tell me about it. And all they were talking about was the kitchen. And I kept, not in pickleball kitchen, but the kitchen in the house. But they had fallen in love with this, this gourmet chef's kitchen. But when we really ran the numbers, it was out of their budget. But they got so emotionally attached in the beginning to this home with the kitchen that they forgot to really figure out, was it something in their budget, before they went and looked at it. And so the advice is, get your numbers first before you go out with your real estate agent, because every home is a little different, a little higher priced, potentially property taxes in a different area could differ from another neighborhood, home association dues could differ. And if you go out and fall in love with that thing, and then find out the payment's quite a bit higher because of some of those factors later, if you're emotionally attached, you might make a bad financial decision.
And if you want to avoid the approval trap, if you don't want to be like one of those past clients that we've had that falls in love with the house before getting their numbers and finding out it just might not be in the budget, tap below, leave us a comment. We'll get with you to show you the steps to homeownership. Dave, it's been a great game, and I will talk to you later.